Listeners, are you ready for your monthly literary adventure? We now have the BFF Book Club. Join us each month to explore a new book. After reading, connect with fellow book lovers and meet the author in a live interview. Can't make it live? Don't worry. We'll send you the recording. You can find all the upcoming book club selections at www.bookishflights.com/read/BFF Book Club. Hi, I'm Kara Infante, and this is Bookish Flights. In each episode, I chat with one bookish guest as we take some time to sample and savor the pairing recommendations from their bookish flight. We hope to give you suggestions to cultivate your TBR list and nurture your leisure time through books. In today's episode, I am chatting with Phyllis Gobbell. Phyllis retired from teaching college English and writes a little bit of everything. Her true crime books include An Unfinished Canvas, co-authored with Mike Glasgow, and A Season of Darkness, co-authored with Doug Jones. She also wrote Lost Innocence, published as an audiobook and in the anthology Masters of True Crime. Gobbell has written 4 mysteries: Pursuit in Provence, Secrets and Shamrocks, Treachery in Tuscany, and Notorious in Nashville. Treachery in Tuscany won Killer Nashville's Silver Falchion Award for Cozy Mysteries. Her latest novel, Prodigal, was released this past November. She currently lives in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome to the show, Phyllis.
Thank you, Kara. I'm delighted to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. Well, I feel like you are so much more than our bio, or we are so much more than our bios. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Well, I've been writing for a long time. I grew up in a small town, and my latest novel, Prodigal, is not about that town per se, but it certainly, my life growing up in a small town influenced a lot of the writing of Prodigal. I taught for 20 years in
Wow.
college and retired 2 years ago. So I'm writing full time. I live in Nashville, have 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren. And so I write and spend time with my family. And that's about it.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a very full life.
It is.
So,
Mhm.
well, it sounds like also that you've always been a writer. Were you writing even as a child? Was that a passion?
I was. I began writing, I don't know, I guess when I could write. I remember that I used to take the comics, the funny papers, we called it, and I would cut out the little speech clouds and make my own stories with the illustrations there. And later on, when I was in the 6th grade, I tried to write a novel. Uh, I passed it around with among my girlfriends, and of course, they all said, "Oh, this is great! This is the best thing." And when I got it back and decided I should probably read it myself, it was so terrible that I think I threw it away. I'm sure I threw it away. I must have
Yeah.
torn it to pieces. But I've been writing for a long time. I wasn't published until I was about 30,
Okay.
but I was writing all of that time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I imagine teaching English as well, right? It's you're just it sounds like you've just lived in this world of writing.
Yes, yes. I'm being an educator and especially teaching English and a writer. All of those, you use the same muscles.
Yeah.
And I couldn't write as much when I was teaching because I had to grade a lot of essays.
Sure.
But now, now I'm really enjoying it more than I guess I've ever enjoyed writing, just because I have more time to do it.
Yeah, your bandwidth has opened up a little
Yes,
bit.
a little bit.
That's one of my favorite questions to ask authors on the show is like, if you're spending all your time writing, do you get a burnout where you're like at night? I figure, most authors are readers as well, but do you experience that where you're like, I don't know that I want to pick up a book tonight. It's been a pretty heavy day in the writing or the editing or the,
Well, I love to read. I do. And that is one of the nice things about retirement too, is that I have more time for leisure reading because I had to do a lot of reading that was associated with the lessons that I was
sure.
preparing. And so no, I don't. I, my writing does not keep me from wanting to read. I love to
Yeah.
read. And
Yeah.
I'm for some reason, I don't even know why, but I've started keeping a list of all the books that I've read. And I think I've read, I'm getting close to 100 this year. So
Nice.
yeah, yeah.
I think it's important to keep a list. I love going back and reflecting on my list. And it's listeners, we're recording this in December, and I feel like it's about that time of year where I need to go back. And I love to kind of break down, my top five fiction, top five nonfiction. And then I do a lot of audiobooks. So I like to look at my breakdown of what I did audio versus a physical book. And so I like having the list to be able to go back and kind of pick it apart a little bit and see my trends for the year.
It just makes me feel like I've really accomplished something.
Yeah. Are you a list maker by heart?
I am.
Or like,
I am. I'm a list maker by heart.
yes, me too. So, well, let's talk about your latest novel, Prodigal. Can you tell the listeners about it?
This book takes place in a small southern town, and the first scene takes place in the year 2000 on the 4th of July. There is a robbery and shooting at a convenience market, and in the first 2 or 3 pages, you learn about this. Connor Burdett is 19 and he leaves town. And we pick up again 10 years later and he's trying to come home. And so most of the novel is about what it's like to come home and how can you come home and what it's like to face the past. And of course, there are all of these secrets that uh, come to the surface and new crises. But the secrets sort of provide the framework for the novel. And in the end, it's about not just Connor, but his whole family and even the little town, and about forgiveness and sacrifice and what is the cost of forgiveness. And so that's in a nutshell, that's what Prodigal is about. And of course, if you went to Sunday school, you probably remember the prodigal son. So he's the
Yeah.
prodigal son trying to find his way home. It's a modern day retelling of that parable.
Yeah. That sounds beautiful. I think so many of us can resonate with maybe running away from our past a little bit, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
facing, confronting everything that comes down the line after that.
Right, right. Well, that's really what it's about. And he thinks that if he just can come home and if his family can take him back, everything will be fine. But of course, it's not.
Yeah.
In the meantime, his wealthy grandmother dies, and there's all of this about the will, and so there are all of these new things that come up, but the secrets from the past are the part of the book that really provide, I guess, the layers that I want for it, the layers of, well, we could say underlying wisdom. That's what we would call it in creative writing, and
Sure.
so that's what it's about. And
Yeah.
and a lot of my growing up in a small town, um, helped me in writing about this. I didn't have to do a lot of research as I did with my mysteries when I went to foreign countries and wrote these mysteries. But it's not about that particular town or those particular people. But I do think that the characters I created could have been my neighbors as I was
Yeah.
growing up. They could have been.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes me think about, is there an element where, like the stories we tell ourselves, right? If we did run from something, right? Or we ran away and now we're 10 years later, we're coming back to confront. And it's like the story you've told yourself for that 10-year pause, right? Before you go back and try to confront
Mhm.
yourself with the situation.
Yeah, yeah. The stories that you tell yourself, maybe you want it to be different from what it really was.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
it
Yeah, like
might.
it's like we kind of fantasize, like not fantasize it, but we make it like this clean, nice, put in the box story we can tell ourselves instead of the ugliness of it.
And especially there's a romantic element too
Yeah.
there, the idea that well, this is the way it was, and then maybe it wasn't that way at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Romanticizing. I think that's the word. Instead of fantasizing, it's more
Right.
romanticizing what it really was. So thank you.
Exactly.
You put the right word on there for
Exactly.
me.
Exactly.
So, well, that sounds amazing. I'm excited to pick this one up. What did you learn about yourself in writing this story?
I think I learned that I really do like to write literary fiction. I have written a lot of different things.
Hmm.
Some people think you ought to stay in the same genre and that you have your followers and that they won't like it if you change. And I don't know. I guess time will tell uh, about this. But it was it was just a book I was compelled to write. And I think I've realized about myself that I'm a better writer when I'm writing what I want to write, what I'm compelled to write.
Yeah.
And that wasn't true with my mysteries. I love to write mysteries, but that is something that I just chose to craft. But this one was one I'd been thinking about for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a better writer when I do that. And I have since written another book that's a literary mystery that I haven't done anything with yet. But I
Okay.
do have a draft of that one. And it's not the same story. It's totally different, but it's another literary novel that I suppose is influenced by my own growing up, and it's I love it too. So I think what I learned about myself was that the writer that I really like to be is the one that's writing these these literary mysteries that are in depth and have layers and that are informed by my own experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great way to say it. And I've had other guests on the show come on and say it's like the story just got a hold of me and it wouldn't let me go until I wrote it. And it sounds like that's what you're saying. Like this, it just compelled you and it was on your heart.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So I guess I always think of these, if you're religious, but like these little nudges from God, right? And like, are we really listening to them? And maybe in your way, right? This is the simple, like listening to that message you're getting, like, nope, this is where you should be going, right?
Well, also, and there's quite a lot of religion in this book, not overtly, but Connor's father is a preacher.
Okay.
And in part, he's running away from that.
Right.
And when he leaves, he's not just running away from that robbery, although it seems so at first, but there are other things he's running away from that we find out. And so in small towns, church is very important. So
Mhm.
there's quite a lot of religious overtones there in this about coming home and facing up to your sins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering that too when you mentioned about, like the prodigal son story. So I was like, I
Yes.
was wondering if there was some themes of that too. And that sounds fantastic. I really can't wait to pick that one up. So, having been like having this writing in your life for many years, was there a book that you read along the way and you're like, I want to be a writer?
Well, I mentioned when I was in the sixth grade that I wrote a novel or I
Hmm.
tried to write a novel. And it was the result of reading a book, but I'm embarrassed. I don't remember the name of the book. I don't remember the author. And it was from my school library, but it was kind of a different book. I'd always read these little, um, these probably nonfiction books,
Sure.
biographies, and then this was kind of a romance. And I thought, oh, I could do that. And I tried,
Okay.
and I told you how that came out.
Yeah.
And I do think that when I realized how bad it was, all my girlfriends saying, "Oh, this is so good," and then it was so bad. I think that didn't discourage me from being a writer. I think it made me, well, just consider the idea that if you're a writer, you've got to be able to tell what's good and what's not good.
Hmm.
And you can't just assume that everything that you wrote is is going to be great. You've got to be able to look at it objectively and say, no, that is not good. And I've had to do that many times. Uh, in fact, in Prodigal, it wasn't good, but I told the story for my first draft. I told the story from the sister's point of view.
Okay.
And I think because the reason I did that was because her voice sounded a little bit like my voice
Hmm.
and it seemed comfortable. But I wasn't happy with that. And so I reworked it completely.
Wow.
And now each chapter is from a different point of view from the
I
family
like that.
members. The sister
Okay.
has some, the father, the mother, the brother, the sister-in-law, and Connor himself. And they go back and forth. Very short chapters, but from different points of view. And
I love that.
that worked a lot better for me. But I I realized I read it and it was like, okay, I guess this is all right, but it's really not what I want. And so I go back to that being in the sixth grade and being able to look at that. And I didn't know how to fix it, but
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't what I wanted. I was able to tell that even then.
Yeah. I can see now, like how you're talking about each individual family member in Prodigal, like how that would just add the layer and the depth to the story when you're getting, kind of each person telling the story and bringing in their point of view as well.
Yes. Yes. And Connor, especially his brother, um, in the original biblical prodigal son story, the young man goes away and he comes back and the father welcomes him with open arms and kills the fatted calf and all of that. And the brother he says, I've been here all along. And what did I get? And he's been away doing whatever. And I think they called it in the Bible riotous living. And now he's back and he's getting all the attention and I'm getting none. And there's a little bit of that there
Yeah.
because the brother has been there all along. He's been dutiful, he's been faithful. And so you get, sometimes I think you will feel sorry for Connor and sometimes you'll feel sorry for Russ.
Yeah.
And depending on which one you're reading.
Yeah. And I could see how then that, thinking further into the prodigal son story, right, in the Bible, but just that element of forgiveness and how the father is showing the, unconditional love and unconditional forgiveness, but for the other son being like, wait.
Yeah. And I added a daughter too that was not in the
Okay.
Bible. And so he's got a sister. And and then of course, the mother, who I guess is not mentioned in the Bible, but all of them, he kind of has to earn their forgiveness. And then in the end, he has to forgive himself.
Yeah.
And he learns that in all of the forgiveness, there's a cost that it demands sacrifice, and there's a sacrifice that he has to be willing to do. And so it's a it's not exactly the biblical story
Sure.
because,
Absolutely.
but that's the flavor of it.
Well, I love it. And you kind of mentioned themes of forgiveness and the sacrifice of it, but were there other themes that you hope readers will ponder as they're reading?
Well, just the themes of the small town community, family and community, and
Mhm.
what that really means. And community, you don't have to be in a small town to have community, but I think there's just something really special about the way people come together at a funeral. There's a funeral in this book, and you see the way they come together. And so, yes, family, community, all of that. Those are thematic elements too.
Wonderful. Well, listeners, you'll have to go grab a copy of Prodigal
I hope so.
and pick it up, and you'll have to check that one out. So it sounds like you've already written another draft, but my other question for you is, are you working on any? I know this one just came out, so you might still be on the heels of, getting this book out to the world, but any upcoming, other projects or other books that you're working
Well,
on?
yes, I have been. It took a long time to get this published. I mean,
Sure.
from the time it's accepted, it seemed like it took a long,
Yeah.
long time. And so I have finished this other. I say finished. I mean, it's more than first draft. I've been over it, and it's more than first draft.
Sure.
But there'll be more to do, and then I need to get it out, and I haven't done that yet. But this one is another small town southern book. Uh, it's called The Princess of Almost Alabama.
Okay.
Almost Alabama is near the Alabama in Tennessee, near the Alabama line.
Oh, okay.
Almost Alabama. And the the main character, Grace, um, we follow her really from the time she's 2 years old until she's 22. We follow her for 20 years.
Wow. Okay.
And she, I don't want to give too much of it away,
Sure.
and I'll probably change a lot of things, but one thing I know for sure, she has dyslexia. yet throughout all the obstacles that she has to overcome, and not all of them dealing with dyslexia either, lots of heartbreak. Um, she finds that writing really becomes her salvation. Writing saves her.
Beautiful.
And so that's the gist of that one.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you'll have to keep me posted on that one. I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear about that one as well.
Yes.
Well,
Um,
let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about who you are as a reader. What genres do you enjoy reading?
I mostly read fiction, and I like mysteries. I the reason I started writing mysteries was because I loved Agatha Christie, and those are the kinds of mysteries that I write. Cozies, traditional
Yeah.
mysteries, I guess. Mine are never too violent, but they I hope are in the vein of Agatha Christie. I like mysteries, but I do love good literary books too. Now, I will say, um, I there's some bestsellers that I like and some bestsellers that I don't like, and I guess everybody's like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've had quite a few times where I read something that has been a really bestseller, hyped book, and I'm like, I didn't like that. And what's
yeah,
wrong? It makes me think, did I miss something? Or what's wrong with me that I didn't like that? And
yes. There was a book, and I won't name it,
yeah,
some time ago, and on the first pages, where they're blurbs, there were there were dozens of blurbs from the
sure.
most important kinds of reviewers, and so I got into it, and I kept thinking, well, there's got to be something there because all of these people said so.
Yeah,
And I finished the book because I don't like to, I just, that's sort of the way I am. If I start something, I don't want to quit. And I never quite understood. But they're just different tastes. People have
yeah.
different tastes. And so I like, every now and then, though, I'll read a literary novel that is just, it just makes you say, oh,
Yeah.
oh.
And then you can't stop thinking about it.
That's right. That's right. And you
Yeah.
asked me to think about some books. And gosh, I'm thinking now of one that I wasn't even going to name, but one that I just really, when I finished, I just
Yeah.
could not do anything but just say, oh, oh.
Well, if you feel compelled, I give people there's a dessert option you could do with your flight today that we could add a fourth one if you want to give it an
Okay.
honorable
Uh,
mention.
I'll
So,
add that one. I'll add that one.
okay, perfect. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you chose your book flight today?
Well, okay. Do you want me to start and talk about one of them?
Sure, unless I guess if there's a theme that you kind of chose. Okay.
Well, first of all, um, I chose Ordinary Grace by William Kent Kruger, and it was hard for me to choose one of his because I just finished reading The River We Remember, and before that I had read This Tender Land, and I loved all of them, but
Yeah.
Ordinary Grace was really the book that uh, after I read that, I wanted to write Prodigal. And I'll tell you why. I went to a conference and William Kent Kruger was there and he
Okay.
spoke, and he said, he was so well known for mysteries, and he said
Sure.
Ordinary Grace had just come out, and he said, I didn't know if my agent and my editors would want this because it's a departure from what I
Mhm.
usually write, but I just felt compelled to write it. And so it is about a um a Midwestern family and a small town, and it had some of those themes of
Yeah.
forgiveness. And I thought when I finished that, I could write a book like this, but it would be a Southern small town.
Sure.
And that was the book that made me want to write Prodigal.
Yeah.
And so that's why I chose that for one of mine, because it just has a special meaning to me. I mean, I could
Yeah.
go back and read it again, um, and enjoy it, but I've been reading his other books instead, and
Yeah.
they're those the way they are mysteries, but they're literary mysteries, and they are so layered and have social commentary along with it, like, well, this tender land. No, it was the river we remember, that where they were uh, they were trying to convict a man who was an Indian. We say Native Americans, but he called himself an Indian,
Yeah.
and just because he was an Indian. And there was social commentary there. So it's much more than a mystery. So that's why I chose William Kent Kruger's books, and particularly Ordinary Grace, because it just has a special meaning for me.
Yeah. I had an author come on, Amanda Cox, and she talked about books that are catnip for her, and I've like now adopted this. So I can't say, but catnip to me is these books with this strong sense of place. And I really feel
Yes.
like his
Yeah.
books allow you to feel like you are in the Midwest. And so I love getting to travel. We can't always travel, right? So I love getting to travel through the pages of a book. So I love to hear that about Prodigal too, because I haven't spent much time in the South. So I'm like, oh, I can go get my little feel of that through yours.
Yes, yes. Well, I hope you'll think. I hope that you will think when you've read it that, yes, this one had a strong sense of place too.
Yeah.
Place can really be a character. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That was another, yeah, it just all these interesting conversations I've had on the show. And that was, always that it's its own character in itself,
Mhm,
that place.
mhm, mhm.
So that was Ordinary Grace by William Kent Kruger. What's the second book you brought today?
Demon Copperhead
Okay.
by Barbara Kingsolver. And once again, this place is really a character,
Yeah.
Appalachia. And the reason I chose that is because that is the book that inspired me to write the one that I'm still working on, The Princess of Almost Alabama. Uh, because he starts, it's first person. He starts talking about from the time of his birth until he's about 20, and then it's over. A lot of times I think in a book like this, I call Demon Copperhead a big book,
Yeah, it is. It's thick.
because there's so many plot lines. There's so many characters, and each of them, you're not just interested in that one. You're so many characters that you want to follow what's happening to them. And so a lot of times in a big book, I think they go throughout the character's whole life. But
Yeah.
he stopped at 20, and I thought, wow, you could really do that. And you don't know what happens. You don't know what
Yeah.
happens. You get a sense that things are going to be better.
Sure.
It's uplifting. It does, after there's a lot of sadness in this
Yeah,
book
I've heard there's some heartbreak in it.
and heartbreak, but you get a feeling that things there's something uplifting at the end. And I thought, I could do that. I could do that. And so my character, um, she tells her story until she's about 22, and she has a lot of heartbreak, and hers, I hope, is uplifting at the end. You don't know. It's not tied up with a bow at all.
Sure.
But that is why I chose Demon Copperhead. I just loved the way the voice, the voice. I could just feel that
Yeah.
character. And of course, she's a wonderful writer, whatever she writes. But this one, I I think is her best. I really loved the Poisonwood Bible way back when, a long time
Yeah.
ago. But this one, I think, has she just really outdid herself, and I loved it. So that's
Yeah.
why I chose that one.
I think there's a reason why it's all these awards and the accolades it's received over this past year since it's been out. So,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
So lots of people like it.
Yeah. So, okay. So that was Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. And then what's the last book you brought today?
Well, and the last one is nonfiction. And I just chose that because I finished reading it, and then I went to see Doris Kearns Goodwin. She was here in Nashville,
Okay.
and the book is an unfinished love story. And she and her husband were both part of the administrations of Kennedy and Johnson. Well, she wasn't of Kennedy. She was Johnson, but he was
Okay.
of both. And he was a speech writer, and she as he became ill, and were both older, and she is quite old now. He had died, and they had already been going through boxes and boxes and boxes of of his speeches, and
Sure.
all of the things that they had kept, trying to put it in some kind of order and to do a book. And when he died, she felt compelled to finish the book, and she did. And it's just wonderful reading about those years,
Yeah.
the 60s and early 70s, and to go behind the scenes. Um, I was living then, and I knew there was a Vietnam War, but I didn't know a lot of what went on,
Sure.
that I learned from her book. And it was just
Especially that behind the scenes look, I think, right? Often, right? Like we just kind of are told what the news is told, and we're never getting that like
exactly.
background to it.
Exactly. And even though it's nonfiction, she's a storyteller. And so it reads at times like fiction. It's just wonderful storytelling. And so I chose her book because I just went to see her, and I read it, and I loved it. And
Yeah.
so
Well,
yeah.
thank you for sharing that one because I haven't heard of this one before. So I'm excited and very intrigued. And like you said, I mean, I think even, I mean, nowadays, I think we have a lot more access to information, but I think we would still be shocked to learn sometimes the behind the scenes
Oh,
of
absolutely.
everything.
Absolutely. I know. I
Yeah.
know. I know.
So, okay, so that was an unfinished love story by Doris Kearns Goodwin. And then you have a little honorable mention here as well. So, what's your other book that you were going to say?
Yes. Ann Tyler's Ladder of Years. It's quite
Okay.
an old book, but she's still writing. And in fact, I've read some of hers, some others, in the past 2 years since I've been retired, and I've kept my list that I
Yeah.
talked about. And but Ladder of Years has been my favorite. And what happens in that one is that a woman um, goes to the beach with her family every year. And so this year, her father has died, and she's very close to him. So it's kind of a very tender time in her life. And her children are older. They don't need her like they did at one
Mhm.
time. And she and her husband have been married a long time. There are no real problems. But for whatever reason, she starts walking down the beach and she just leaves. She just winds up in another town. And this is quite an old book. I don't know
Okay.
if it were written today, if she could pull it all off because of, the way we have social media
We could
now.
find someone in a minute.
Yeah, but she was able to pull it off, and she went to changed her name, went to another town, and she got a job um, working for this doctor. And actually, her husband was a doctor. She worked for him, taking care of his little boy. And then she began to um, work or help in a nursing home. And she kind of realized this is who I am.
Wow.
I'm a nurturer. I'm a caregiver. She realized that no matter where she went, she's still the same person. She
Hmm.
thought she had reinvented herself, but she had not. She was still the same person.
Yeah.
And so that was just the one that just made me say, oh,
Yeah.
because there were so many things that she realized. For one thing, she had wondered why she'd never really missed her grown-up children. She said, I love my children. Why have not I not cried? Why have not missed them? And then one night she had a dream, and they were at the beach as they always were every year. And the children were little and they were building sandcastles. And she woke up and she was just weeping. And she said, these are the children I miss.
Yeah.
These are the ones that I'm crying for. And those of us who've had small children and now we have older
Yeah.
children, we know that, yeah, you do, no matter how much you love these older children, you do miss those little ones. You do
Yeah.
miss them so much. And so there were so many times that she just made observations that were so profound. And that's why I like Ladder of Years by Anne Tyler.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds beautiful and a good reminder for someone like me who my young kids right and the days seem very long sometimes.
Yes, yes. I
So,
know you have small children, but they will grow up and then you'll miss these times. I can
yeah.
tell you.
Everybody tell my husband and I say that all the time. We're like, are we gonna miss this, wiping the noses or, like just
Yeah,
the little things you grumble about. And we're like, well, we really miss this.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You will. You will.
So, well, thank you for bringing those books with you today. I really appreciate that. How I love to end our show is with our bonus pairings, which are just a speed round of questions so you can answer these really quick. Are you a rereader?
Sometimes, not a lot, but if there's a book that I really, really loved, yes, I would be happy to read Demon Copperhead again or Ladder of Years or one of those. Yeah,
Okay. All right. The special ones.
the special ones, the special
Yeah.
ones.
What is one book you've read that has changed your life?
I guess I mentioned this, and I have to say it again, though. When I read Ordinary Grace,
Yeah.
it did change me because it made me want to dig into myself in a way that I had not as a writer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Where is your favorite place to read?
In my bed, in my bed at night.
Yeah.
And I used to, when I was teaching, I used to have trouble staying awake, so I couldn't read very much, but I'm
Sure.
better about that now. And that is just a time that I really look forward to, is getting in my getting my jammies and in my bed and reading whatever book I'm in the middle of.
Yeah. Closing out your day that way.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Lastly, what are you reading next?
Uh, Louise Penny's The Gray Wolf.
I love this series. We have not talked about this series yet on a book flight, but I
I
love
should have mentioned her. Yes, I love those Armand Gamache books, and I've read, I guess, all of them. And this is
Yep.
the newest one. Yes.
I have started slow rolling them. I got to like the World of Curiosities, which is
Mhm.
probably like 16, I don't know, it's up there, 15, 16. And I was like, I don't want to like run out of these books. So I kind of slow rolled my reading on them. I'm like, okay, I'm going to wait and then I'll trickle the next one in. And obviously the Gray Wolf, right? I was so excited when that one came out because I'm like, okay, I can pop another one in now because there's another one waiting for me.
And I was really glad to see that the Black Wolf is, I guess she's working on, it's the next one coming out.
Okay, I did
Not
see her
out
kind
yet.
of post about like, I'm going to be giving you some more snippets of my latest work, but I didn't catch the title. So, oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
listeners, it's the Armand Gamache series. Like I said, we have not talked about this on the show, but it is to me like such a cozy mystery. It's like not cozy mystery, but like the characters make it cozy, right? You go back to the same village of Three Pines and
I'd
it's
love to go to Three
delightful.
Pines, wouldn't
I
you?
say that all the time. People, when they were like, where would you go? What literary setting? I'm like, Three Pines, please.
Absolutely. Me too.
So, but the characters are what make that series cozy. And listeners, you definitely want to pick it up if you haven't before. It's a great series.
Yes, I agree.
So,
I agree.
well, thank you so much for coming on the show with me today. I know your time is precious and I appreciate all you've given me.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yay, thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode today with Phyllis Gobbell. Her book flight included books that influenced the writing of Prodigal. You can find all the books we talked about on the show at bookishflights.com. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Your review not only helps the show, but it also helps the podcast to reach others. Make sure you are subscribed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to make sure you will not miss an episode. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. As Emma Thompson said, I think books are like people in the sense that they'll turn up in your life when you most need them. Cheers to you, dear readers. Until next time.